This fall in Advanced Structural Concepts, we introduced a new module, Generative Design, and we identified a piece of software that does it very well and a very powerful tool. We thought it would be a good place to introduce students to working interactively with using layout software and then communicating that back into our BIM modeling tools. This went along with another module that we had developed earlier in the course where we were working with heavy timber construction and modular building components. So the students had already accomplished this task, and the goal in the TestFit process was then to integrate these modular systems into TestFit. So without going into some of the listeners may already be the developers of the TestFit and others may not be familiar with it. But what I had assembled was a set of videos, as I do with all of these modules, describing the overall project goals, and in this case specifically how to start up and use TestFit to do some generative concept layouts for building design with apartments, modular units. TestFit typically does a lot with parking, and we actually just eliminated the parking levels on our project just to simplify it to fit within the allotted time that we wanted to do the project. So there's a series of 7 videos stretch over probably less than 30 minutes and give the students a good introduction to the software, which is relatively easy to use. And I give them an example project. I select a site and do a layout, create some modules that fit with the modules we pre-developed, and give them a guide for what like a minimum level of a standard of performance is. So I'll just briefly now go through all of the student works. There are 10 projects, 10 students in the class, and they were asked to do some comments on them. And I got 5 responses where they actually incorporated the responses into their drawing work. So let's just take a quick look at them. Here's probably one of the most attractive architecturally as far as facades go. He does a great deal of explanation about his working with the tool. This is an advanced student, so he goes into quite a bit of detail about the user interface and some of the other experiences. This is a more typical student. And there's a couple of ways the students approach this. I have a site on Elmwood Avenue in Buffalo, New York that we had done the layout for. This is the first run with this, and eventually I think if we were to continue expanding on the teaching using this technique, we would do some comparative analysis of layouts and really use the tool of generative design more effectively. Not that this first introduction wasn't very useful for the students. So here we have one that's basically almost a duplicate of the layout that I had created. Lower elevations. Once again, a lot of the commentary, people enjoyed using the TestFit program. They weren't necessarily intimidated by it and or, shall we say, offended by its ability to do some of the work that they might have considered part of their own toolbox of tools that they would apply to projects. Once again, the feeling that they used the TestFit very quickly to realize their design. The bottleneck was probably in just transferring it to BIM data. And there's really no way to, although this allows reiteration by quickly exploring and importing, there's really no direct interaction between the BIM modeler, which is really unfortunate. I think we could have done a lot more with it. But it's still a very powerful tool in its early development stages, or relatively. So that's about the scale of the way the projects were accomplished. Students picked it up very quickly. There were no questions by any of the students on how to use it and or any kind of techniques or developments of project problems within the round tripping between the 2 pieces of software. You know, in conclusion, I guess for future work, it really became apparent to me at the end of the process that TestFit had already developed a Dynamo interface, and I just started to experiment with that as far as being able to bring placement data into the BIM modeler kind of interactively. And I'm still working with the idea that how will we actually put facade elements onto the features of our imported data. We need to extract some points probably and do maybe an adaptive component, something for future work. It seems like the Dynamo add-on for TestFit could probably be advanced a little bit more to help facilitate that technique. Overall, it was a really enjoyable experience learning it and seeing how the students would respond to it. And I'd like to repeat this in the future, in the next semester, and continue to advance it along. So I think it was a very successful module to introduce into our Advanced Structural Concepts course.